The month of June marks the 31st anniversary of Sonic the Hedgehog, and with it, IGN is currently hosting its month-long coverage for the upcoming Sonic Frontiers, which includes world-exclusive gameplay reveals to the first-ever hands-on impressions, interviews with the game's developers, and so much more. This announcement came on May 31st from the official Sonic the Hedgehog accounts, which was accompanied with a brand new 40-second teaser for the game, featuring our very first glimpse of actual gameplay, a brand new logo which is way better than the last one, as well as what we can expect from IGN's reveals throughout the month. Frontiers is already showing much more promise than Forces ever did, and I was thoroughly impressed with this very short teaser. But then the reveals of the past week kept on impressing, but also left me with plenty of questions and some concerns. So today, I'll be breaking down and analyzing everything we've seen from the 7 minutes worth of exploration gameplay from June 1st, as well as the 6 minutes worth of combat-focused gameplay that was released this past Friday, June the 3rd. And as I'm speaking, IGN might have already dropped a new update, which will obviously not be included in this video and will instead be included in my next video. So you're going to want to stay tuned for that when it releases. But until then, let's go ahead and jump into what we've seen from Sonic Frontiers thus far. And right off the bat, this game just looks so beautiful. The water looks great, birds will fly alongside Sonic while he's running, the environmental sounds like the wind and grass when running, insects, birds singing, and waterfalls just adds another layer of life to this world. Heck, even the forest section looks great, despite going at a pretty fast speed. This to me just screams Sonic Unleashed. I've said this before, but it's really apparent now. But this is on a much grander scale than the previous boost games that came after Unleashed. And since I brought up the boosting mechanic, instead of doing whatever Forces was doing with this weird effect around the screen whenever a boost was triggered, Frontiers doesn't do that, and instead reverts back to the much cleaner look Unleashed and Generations had, and that is really appreciated. It's worth mentioning that Sonic's boost trail is no longer here, and I'm kind of thankful for that because Forces went way overboard with it, to the point you couldn't even see Sonic running half the time. Now, a trail is still here, but it appears to be tied to certain abilities rather than every single action. Meanwhile, Sonic's boost shield, I don't know if that's the actual term for it, but that's what I'm going to call it. It also appears to be gone, probably in favor of having enemies that are able to put up more of a challenge than pretty much every 3D boost game post-Unleashed, where enemies could just be dealt with by boosting or a single homing attack, and then you move on. But speaking of combat, and like I mentioned earlier, we got around 6 minutes of combat gameplay, showing off more than a few of Sonic's new moves, courtesy of whatever's giving Sonic this new boost and aura. Sonic can run around an enemy to knock them skyward, and a faster version of this move can be done after a homing attack, it seems. But once an enemy is in the air, or in some cases their shields, Sonic can hit them with his standard homing attack, and can land extra hits by performing multiple up-close punches and kicks in the air. Yes, I'm aware of the comparisons being made to Shadow's moveset in Sonic 2006, but I'm honestly okay with this because the last and probably only game where Sonic actually resorted to using hand-to-hand combat was in Sonic Boom Rise of Lyric, which, in of itself, is a pretty ambitious game with its expanded combat and open world. It was just held back by console limitations and a dumb exclusivity deal. This is why we can't have nice things. There also appears to be a special kind of homing attack that kinda reminds me of the Laser Wisp from Sonic Colors in terms of movement. Sonic can also send a flurry of energy waves at enemies, which I assume is a long-distance alternative to getting up close to enemies and hitting them that way. Sonic can perform an air loop in the air before launching toward an enemy with a charged kick. Finally, Sonic Team is taking inspiration from Sonic's moveset in Smash, I see. Then there's this move where Sonic creates a swirling vortex in the air, and just like some of these other moves that we see, I'm not entirely sure how these are activated just yet. But there is a concern that this gameplay style might become either button mashy or simply repetitive. For me personally, I think it's fine, but this is coming from someone who actually liked Unleashed's Hedgehog stages. So, who am I to say anything? As for the new enemy types, I actually really like them, mainly because they're different from the typical enemies every single Sonic game has thrown at us since Colors, especially the giant boss type enemies that Sonic can expose hidden weak spots with his new abilities, or run on top of to hit other weak spots. And the best part? There are no quick time events to be seen, and it's about time the series ditched them. Especially considering the quick time events in Sonic Forces, for the most part, were absolutely pointless. You don't even have to hit the buttons. Now, these bosses might be easy to draw comparisons to Shadow of the Colossus with, which I've already seen, given the enemies in that game are also scalable. But what's unique about this is there isn't a whole lot of other games that do this kind of thing, and that's what I think will help make Sonic Frontiers stand out with its bosses, especially if they get even bigger than this one. Sure, Sly Cooper kinda did something similar to Shadow of a Colossus in Sly 3, but we don't really talk about that. Breath of the Wild, but that only partially counts because the bosses are inside the Divine Beasts. Meanwhile, in the Horizon series, all the machines' weak spots are reachable with long-range weapons, and none of the machines are scalable except for Tallnecks, which pose no threat. These enemies will also knock Sonic off if he happens to destroy a certain section, but my only complaint about these bigger encounters is the music doesn't change to be more epic or anything of the sort. It just stays the same as the rest of the level. Sure, this could just be a placeholder, and it might get switched out by the time the game releases, so we'll have to see how that goes. As for the smaller enemy types, we've only seen 4 of them so far. One that blends into the environment until Sonic triggers them, turning itself into a blade when it attacks. This is where we can see Sonic performing combat dodges just before getting hit to avoid damage. The second enemy type looks like a bunch of robots merged into one giant mass. A third enemy uses a shield that resembles a flower when its body is exposed, and it drops some diamond-shaped items after being destroyed. The fourth enemy can turn itself into a spiked ring that will roll towards Sonic when detected. We don't really get to see this one in action due to the person playing just boosting right past it and quick-stepping off a bridge. Yes, I do have to bring this up because a lot of people mentioned that the game looks too slow because of how the person was playing that initial gameplay. Not the combat gameplay, which was much faster and better actually. And I can agree that Sonic's top speed is slower than other games when not boosting, but this was actually due to it being recorded by Sega themselves back on May 11th. And not the people over at IGN, who weren't allowed to record their own footage when they were invited to play the game. And we should probably expect this for the rest of the footage we'll be seeing this month, with this video serving as a preview of the exploration aspects of this open zone, and some of the things you can do within it, despite the title of the video not making it very clear that this one focuses on exploration. One of the things you can find are these glowing rings that are scattered around the Starfall Islands. To activate them, Sonic will run through them like a dang hamster wheel, and that is a darn good comparison on my part. Now it's virtually impossible to see them as anything else. But seriously, Upon activating these rings, they send out a pulse signal, which I initially thought was going to be part of some sort of tower system that other open world games have to uncover different parts of the map and see what kinds of activities each location has. Well, that is actually not the case. Instead, a collectible fruit will appear. The same thing happens when completing any other puzzle, including this one that reminds me of that one simple puzzle from the first Jak and Daxter. Again, that is a darn good comparison. Why are we collecting fruit now? I have no idea. Heck, there's bluish or purplish coins that kinda look like they're from the Mario series, except they have teardrop shapes on them instead of stars, and then there's these crystal-looking heart pieces from Zelda that I also have no idea what their purpose is. It's worth pointing out that this one does seem to go to a spot on the HUD, which we do not see during this gameplay showcase. The same goes for these diamond-shaped objects I mentioned earlier that enemies leave behind. I don't know, but I guess we'll find out more about these things in time, as well as these new friendly creatures hopping around. They're not wisps, and I'm kinda glad. Now, before I move on to the open zone, I have to point out that yes, there is somewhat of a weather system in the game. Thank goodness. It's really nice to see stuff that I've mentioned in videos from months ago finally start to pop up at some point. First, it was the Bouncer in Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart, Jenny in Nick Brawl, and now Sonic Frontiers having a weather system and the return of Lost World's parkour mechanics. You guys should be thanking me, because by that logic, a Sonic Unleashed remaster and Sly Cooper 5 should be happening anytime now. But regardless of the combat and weather systems, I can't wait to see how far they take both these things. Now, concerning the open zone, I'm actually impressed with the size of this place. I know people were worried about the island's size being too small, especially with Sonic's speed and now the boost in the equation. But yeah, that looks to not be a problem here. This area of the Starfall Islands has Sonic exploring different areas, including some from the trailer that was released during the Game Awards back in December. And I'm not gonna bother comparing the two versions as this video is already long enough as it is, so I might save those comparisons for future videos. But remember, this is still a Sonic game, so expect the typical rings, springs, dash panels, balloons, metal boxes, rails, and rainbow rings, which, by the way, reintroduced tricks to the series for the first time since Generations. And for some reason, the animations are stiff. Like, really stiff. It just don't feel natural and doesn't flow whatsoever. The same thing goes for Sonic's animation when switching between rails. It's honestly more jarring than anything else, aside from the random pop-in that happens at various distances, and also some weird collision where this rock pile falls over when Sonic did not touch it, or even boost next to it, along with a strange clicking sound in different locations that, to be honest, I'm not even sure is supposed to be there. But these are things that I'm sure will be ironed out before the game launches later this year. Although the Switch version, like with any other game out there, might need some more work post-release. Now, in contrast to the animations I just mentioned, yes, this is the same model from Sonic Forces, but this time, there's actual idle animations. Oh, thank goodness. That's exactly what Forces was missing, so Frontiers is officially saved. But jokes aside, Sonic does have a brand new ability to climb walls, like Link does in Breath of the Wild, but Sonic can then turn that into an upward sprint, like in Marvel's Spider-Man. However, climbable surfaces appear to be limited to these types of walls, so basically it's not as free as Breath of the Wild, but not quite as restricted as Horizon. That last part is probably a really bad comparison. But either way, this game is showing a lot of potential, and the more I see of this world, the more I become interested in the amount of lore this game is going to have. All Sonic teams gotta do is make some more adjustments to Sonic's top, non-boosted speed, address the pop-in issues, fix some of Sonic's animations, allow more opportunities to use Sonic's parkour moves rather than an overabundance of rails, which there's a lot of them, you can see them everywhere, and we will be golden. Also, fun fact for anyone who's been paying really, and I mean really close attention to the Sonic Frontiers teaser, if you look closely during the big boss fight, you can see a dot and a line of debug text saying active path 149. It doesn't mean anything whatsoever, it's just the guys at Sega forgot to turn that off, and I just found it kinda funny that this was left in the footage, but thanks goes to Sonic Stadium for spotting this. And yeah, that's going to be about it for this video, guys, and like I said at the start of the video, I'll be continuing my analysis and breakdowns for Sonic Frontiers as IGN drops more info and gameplay. But in the meantime, what do you guys think of Sonic Frontiers so far? And do you think it's the 3D game to finally turn this part of the franchise around? Be sure to leave everything down in the comments section below, and if you enjoyed this video and stuck through the whole thing, then you're going to want to stick around for the next few videos, so be sure to hit that subscribe button and the bell to stay up to date. And once again, thank you guys so much for watching and for the constant support. I've been Blue Knight, and I'll see you guys back here next time.